Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hearthstone. So we don't have to do a lot, so as long as we don't run into any more network problems, which hopefully I won't. I tried to see if I could do a little bit of tweaking to my network to see if that would fix it, but I'm not sure it did. All I need to do is play something to get ranked. So the question is, do I want to play with this standard rank, or do I want to play with the wild rank? Let's look at what character is the lowest rank here. 46, 43, 60, 60, 60, 43, 47, 40. So 43 is Druid. Druid's who we should play as. Let's play Druid standard and see how that works. So hopefully we don't run into any network problems and we'll be fine. Steam has updated the way their reviews work. And just kind of like YouTube, they just did it without telling anybody. They've said now in their internal score, in their internal system of Steam, which, I mean, it's Steam's system, they can do whatever they want. But in their internal score of whether this game is rated positive, mostly positive, or mixed, or bad, or very bad, I don't even know what the rank is. And in fact, that's the one thing they should explain, is give like a 5-star rating next to that so we can understand what's the difference between positive and mostly positive. Is mostly positive closer to mixed, or is mostly positive more positive than positive? I don't know. Because I know there's a positive, I know there's mostly positive, and I know there's very positive. I cannot tell you for the life of me which one of those is the right one. And I'm disconnected from Hearthstone, so let's try that again. Also, the Hearthstone deck tracker was not set up correctly, and so it didn't record in the last recording. That's a shame. Having to use this new thing is almost exactly as difficult as the old way of doing it. It's just a different way, so I'm not doing any better about double checking that. So what Steam did change is now only reviews for people who bought the game directly through Steam count towards the positive, mostly positive, negative, and this. Therefore, if you buy the game on Kickstarter and were given a key, and you were super enthusiastic about that game, yours doesn't count in that ranking. Your review is still there, but it probably is not going to get used for anything or even highlighted, if I was to guess. I would suspect that if there's enough reviews there, the reviews that were done through non-verified purchases will start to get put at the bottom. So this stops companies that do Kickstarters, and people love those Kickstarters, from just brigading there. It also definitely stops people from giving away keys for good reviews, or hiring companies to give good reviews, and they're getting keys, I assume, for free. I imagine at the core of this is that there is a way to give away keys on Steam to your game, and Steam does not get a cut there. And that's what I would assume the financial incentive there is, to stop highlighting that. And for some small time things, that's probably a big deal. For most A and AA and AAA games, it's probably not going to be a big deal. I saw someone talk about this in the example of where people were going into the Ark Survival Evolved main game and revising the reviews or reviewing the main game at 0 to lower its score, or lower because they sold the DLC while the main game is still in early access. And they're saying, well, that's not fair. They should go review the DLC and say the DLC sucks. And they're reviewing, and then they were also kind of making the argument, well, it's not fair for them to be upset because they didn't buy the DLC anyway. So that, honestly, I think there's a very valid argument to say you should be able to A, do whatever you want, and B,
join the pack.
And B, also consider the fact that that if you got Ark Survival Evolved, if you paid money for that, which I believe people did, and then you felt a secondary product, a DLC product, was created and effectively taken out of that original product and sold as its own separate thing, which is what DLC has always been. And regardless of what anyone says, it has always been. They took something out of the game to sell to you for more money. So it's totally fair to say, well, I don't like this game as much anymore because now I know it could have been better if they had put the DLC in there instead of trying to sell it to me. And I think that argument for Ark Survival Evolved clearly be made. As far as the review scores, I still think there's far too many like comedical and scores like that happen, and so because of that issue, because it's just comedy scores get upvoted and people mark them as helpful when somebody writes a joke score. There's probably a little bit of brigading sometimes on some games. I mean, each one of those is almost their own separate issue. If the producer of a game says something that irritates people and they cause them to brigade downward, that's kind of on the producer, and it eventually might reflect in the actual work. If in the same way, if the producer says something that everybody likes and they brigade the game upward, that too can happen.
All realities, all dimensions.
And I'm sure the developer wouldn't have any problem with that if he was getting reviews from people who hadn't actually played the game just because of it. And they certainly pander to that too. I mean, there's plenty of games that are like that. It's like, this is a bad game, but it's about cancer. It's about my child having cancer. I'm gonna exploit my kid having cancer. I'm specifically calling out that Dragon cancer because it was a bad walking simulator from what best I could tell, exploiting their kid having cancer and then coming back and telling people not to do Let's Plays or spoil it because that would be disrespectful. I think that's what he said. Maybe I'm making that up in my head. So, another round. Yeah, but certainly too, Radiator came out. I think that was a free game, and they're like, this is a pro-homosexual game, and it was just the most exploitative piece of garbage game ever, and with just a bunch of BS. And Metal Gear Solid 5 with Quiet too. It's like they decided to do an exploitative thing and have Quiet in a stupid bikini, and he tried to come back and say, well, there was a reason for it, and you'll all feel real bad about what you're saying right now because about it being exploitative. Because once you know the reasons, you'll be crying. And it's like, no, you just want to put her in a bikini, so
For the wild.
just own up to it. And I won't look down on you for that. I look down on people for lying a lot more. I did want to talk about the Ezio collection getting announced. While I was playing Assassin's Creed 2, which may come out soon or may have already come out, because it's my alternate to BioShock, which my alternate to Resident Evil 4, I guess, has to go out now since Resident Evil 4 wasn't playable. So when I was playing Assassin's Creed 2, it certainly did occur to me that I thought they should release a new version of that, and they're really hot on releasing new versions of everything right about now for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. But I thought they really should throw in Assassin's Creed 1 too, 1 also. And they're not doing that, and it doesn't look like they're really remastering anything either. I guess all they're really going to do is they're stripping out the Uplay of probably in the Ezio collection, and that seems like that might be the only thing they're doing. I'm not certain if they up the graphics or up the engine at all. So, I guess with the movie, I think the movie was pushed back a little bit, but with the movie coming out, it makes sense. The movie is almost certainly going to be centered around Ezio. I guess they can't do that for anything else, though. There's no other characters that were popular enough to justify more than one game.
Unleash the beast.
Let's see. 3 return
For the wilds.
I'm gonna lose here. But I guess they're doing something here.
Well played.
So that's something better.
Are you ready for this?
A remaster is might in line. The interesting thing will be about the Uplay multiplayer in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or Revelations. I don't remember which one. Maybe both of them. I think both of those games did have multiplayer through Uplay, and I'm not sure if that's going to be in there at all. So developers reacted to the Steam review changes, and they weren't happy about not being told, and mostly it's independent developers that are complaining. I haven't heard any big developers saying anything. One of them actually it improved their score, and they still said they didn't like it. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Nature must be preserved.
People don't like change. If being on YouTube has taught me anything, people don't like change, and change is bad from some companies, and that's certainly true. YouTube is testing its community thing right now, but I don't have it, the community tab. I actually think that might work very well. If I can schedule things so that every month I say, it's a new month here, these games will be released.
My greetings.
For this amount of time at this specific time, that'd be great to really maybe advertise and hype some things up. It depends on how much extra work I have to put in. The fact that this community thing is basically a replacement to Twitter says I could post videos, GIFs, audio, I think audio, pictures, and text. And so that's pretty much everything Twitter can do without probably the 140 character limit. In a lot of ways, this might just be a new way to integrate a new tier of Google Plus, but not force people to go to Google Plus. It has a very decent chance of
This isn't low grade.
of working about as well as Google Plus. But I kind of like the idea where creators are the only people. In a lot of ways, for me, for Twitter, I think for a lot of people on Twitter, you are just following the content producers, the people that are actually talking about things. You're not doing what things you would do on Facebook, where you're like taking pictures of your lunch or talking about taking your kids to school or something like that. I don't see any of that on Twitter personally, but then I only have my business Twitter account and I don't follow anybody I actually know. So I may be having a completely different experience than most people. I would guess I'm not. There was this really interesting Japanese rap for Sony at the Tokyo Game Show. I am not sure how popular Japanese rap is. I think it's moderately popular. It might be percentage-wise as popular as rap is in the United States, but maybe a lot less. But not that much less, I would guess.
Are you my master?
What was really interesting about it is some of the games clearly were getting slightly more emphasis because it was a Japanese market, but only slightly. It was much heavier, if at least it felt like to me, designed by Sony that's targeting a worldwide market and pushing the same games everywhere. So you would have things like Battlefield, you'd have things like Call of Duty getting wrapped about at the beginning of the lap, heavily focused, when honestly I'm not sure Battlefield or Call of Duty are super popular in Japan, if I was to guess. And then there was like Gravity Rush in there, and Gravity Rush I think was probably getting a little overemphasized because it is more of a Japanese market game, and they're hoping that it succeeds. I that would be my guess, is that they're putting a lot of eggs in that basket, and they're probably going to end up regretting that. And let's see, what else was on there? Not anything like surprisingly different. Like Persona is mentioned. They show a few scenes of Persona, which is going to be a much bigger thing in Japan, obviously. But most of them were just average games. And typically, my just general assumption, let's switch over to Wild. We're not making any victories. We're not getting any victories here playing in ranked on standard, so we'll switch over to a Wild deck and try this one. So typically though, I would think Sony would, particularly at the Tokyo Game Show, have a lot more focus. I would like to see the Tokyo Game Show full of more Japanese games, but sadly the Japanese video game market seems to become less and less each year important. Those niche Japanese only games from Japanese companies and a Japanese way of thinking seem to happen less and less.
Malfurion versus Jaina.
It's gonna be a shame.
I must protect the wild.
It also might mean less JRPGs in the universe, which probably not, because you can make RPG games like crazy on Steam with RPG Maker, and so that's kind of good. And now we're getting in the exact opposite direction, very American or US style crazy games, like Rick and Morty VR accounting game, which I've just gotten into Rick and Morty, and I'm really enjoying it, and also kind of dreading. I'm watching the first 2 seasons. I've never seen any of it. I knew people were talking about it, and I was just like, whatever, I don't have time for it.
Are you
and
my
now
master?
I've gotten into it, and I'm having a lot of fun. But I know I'm about to see all the episodes that are going to be available for at least a while. And that's going to be no fun. This is definitely a breakaway from the Netflix mentality I'm trying to get to with everything, where I just don't watch anything live. I wait till it's at least several seasons in, and then I decide to at that point, then I decide to bring in a watch it on Netflix. That's what I'm trying to say. That being said, I've got so into Mortys, I've started playing Pocket Mortys, which is basically a Pokemon clone on my cell phone, and it's alright. Speaking of Sony again, The Last Guardian is delayed yet again. I thought, if I'm remembering correctly, I think at some point they said there would be no more delays, or we're not going to announce an announcement date until we're ready. So I think that this is yet another like backtracking on that, where they just this game just gets announced and then delayed to remind people that it was announced. Is definitely
Tonight,
what it feels
a
like.
tale of glorious redemption. I see.
So yeah, that's stupid that it's delayed yet again, but whatever. Maybe it will be a good game because it's delayed. That's the typical response. But even now, it's been so long that that game's been so delayed, it's never coming out. It's just that's the one thing that a corporate infrastructure can do, is they can finally kick somebody in the butt and say, just put the game out, quit working on it. We don't care anymore. Just give us the Fallout, the Half-Life baby. Just return it and send it out. We don't care.
On with the show.
Let's see.
Stay on target!
This is an interesting
For the
way to
wild.
play this, but whatever.
Stay on target!
There we go. So, speaking of Japanese companies and companies that just force groups to put out games, the team that made Resident Evil 2 Reborn, or maybe that's the name of the team, I'm not even sure.
Soldiers of the cold dark, obey the cold.
So this is going to be interesting to see what Kel'Thuzad brings back when this guy's dead.
Stay on target! They came from behind!
Here we go. Play this.
Job's done.
In the turn. So yeah, now Lithobe is a 5/5. That worked rather well. So the RE2 Reborn team has announced this game called Daymare 1998. It looks awful in the graphics, and worst of all, it starts off on what can only be described as the dumbest foot ever by calling itself Daymare, and then every single cutscene takes place at night. No joke. That's what I saw. Alright. So this guy won't come back to life.
Stay on target!
Get rid of this guy.
Stay on target!
And
For the wild.
this guy.
Close. Pray for mercy.
So I need to attack this one just to do enough damage so this makes sense.
Stay on target!
But whatever. We're doing good. Yeah, so why call your game Daymare? It's just like zombies. It's not even zombies. It's straight up just Resident Evil, like, infected people with huge mutations. I already talked about how the study has said that it takes 7 months for a AAA game to go to 50% on Steam, and if it's a sub $30 game, it's even more wild. That is certainly going to change how I look at buying games and how long I feel like I can put off games. But it's not going to be the major factor. The major factor is still very much time. It's like, when can I schedule this game? If I bought this game right now, can I put it in a time slot?
Time runs out on me.
I can't. I have no idea how I would buy a game that came out today and start releasing it during the time slot without just stopping some other series midway and saying this game is now interrupting that. That's just screams of inconsistency. And my channel is, I guess, already a little inconsistent because in theory, I guess, it is changing what type of games I'm covering every month.
Stay on target!
So,
For the wild.
so yeah, it's like,
Stay on target!
if I get a new game today and want to release it, I have to release it in a different time slot, which is fine if I have everything else recorded. But what I'm effectively doing here is making an entire TV channel as a single person. I'm having not 12 hours of new stuff like a TV channel is, but I am having 6 or 7 hours in which something's released, and it may not always be an hour worth of content, but whatever. So I'm certainly doing more than 3 hours of prime time, but none of my games I'm covering are really new except for the Hearthstone blog, which arguably is the newest thing. Let's see, restore health to the hero, give random. This is the one. So she played that guy and thinks that's gonna save her.
Stay on target!
But nope. Actually, I needed that to happen.
For the wild.
There we go. So I'm starting to run out of things to talk about now. I may just play the rest off screen. The Welcome Battle bundle, I'll almost certainly get that. I did want to say yet again, I'm getting tired of listening to people on podcasts agreeing with each other. People seem to just have no conviction that they're doing. It's like, when you're talking about video games in particular, it's subjective. We know it's subjective. Everybody and their dog should know it's subjective. And what subjective means is there is no right answer. It's each person's personal opinion. So I want people to get together on podcasts and say, I played this game, this is how I felt about it. But if 2 people happen to play that game, you just like let one person talk, give their opinion, and then let the other person talk, give their opinion, and let's hope both of them are so strong in their convictions that their opinions did not change when they heard the other person talk. And sadly, their opinions do change in mid-conversation. I've never, I guess, understood this. It seems like people are programmed, and they probably are, and I'm just missing this programming in my brain, that they seem like they're just programmed to find concession. And this is not what criticism is about. Criticism of anything is not concession. There should be people out there that say The Shawshank Redemption is an awful movie. There should be people out there that say it's the best movie ever. And there should be a lot of people in the middle. And if it just becomes this Rotten Tomatoes score where everything's conceded, combined together, and that's what all of the critics now agree on, yeah, that's why do we need more than one critic then? If one critic can do the job of saying that their opinion is correct for everybody else, then we don't need other critics. That puts me out of a job, and it disenfranchises people who want to hear other people's voices horribly.
For the wild.
So yeah, I'm just these California people. I know I have a bias against it, but these California people are so soft. They have to. They're so subconscious. They have to have people agree with them. Also, on the other side, though, I don't want to get into like arguments on podcasts, and I don't also want to get into talking points. I don't want it to be a news thing where people are just going to repeat the same talking points over and over again, regardless of what you're asking. There's no real conversation. That's stupid. And I don't want it to become a huge argument. So I'm totally for respecting that each person is entitled to their opinion and all of that. But I don't want their opinions to change. It's just that simple. Unless there's actual facts that are presented, and it doesn't even really matter on the video game aspect, because if I play a game and see no bugs, then my criticism of that game should be good because there's no bugs. If another person plays the game and it's crashing all the time for them, I can go, the only thing I should do is go, huh, that's weird, so that's about it. But I shouldn't change my opinion and go, well, I'm going to rate this game lower because you're telling me this game was crashing up for you all this time. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. I can only give my own true experience. That's what my criticism is. So even if you presented actual facts, if you told me literally Hitler made my favorite game, I would still say, well, I still enjoyed the game. And maybe if he was making video games, he wouldn't be running the Nazi party. I mean, that's all I can say there. It's like, there are no new facts that change your experience. Only more of your experience will change your experience. So somebody could say, you should play that game more, and then you go play it more, and then come back and have a revised opinion. But that's about as much as you can do. Now, the only other thing I have to talk about is 4K TVs have really low latency right now, and the HDR is not a standard, so getting the PS4 is probably a ridiculously dumb idea. I've already kind of talked on that. And with that, I'm out of things to talk about. So I'm going to just end the recording session here and play off screen for the rest of these things. That will get us another 80, putting us at 54, 30. I'm lower than I was because I did the 12 Days of Christmas pack opening, but I could open 50 packs with the next expansion easily right now, and then I would just be a little low and need to build back up. And so that's what I'm holding off to do. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to. I totally want people's comments, but you probably noticed that I either just don't argue with people on their comments. So if somebody has a completely different opinion, I'll say cool, I'll leave it there. If it's, as long as it's not spam, that's fine. So I definitely do want comments, though. I want more of a conversation as my channel grows. There is an interesting thing about the number of views versus the number of subscribers I've seen with some other channels, where I am kind of high on views and really low on subscribers. So I kind of hopefully believe in it, with fingers crossed, that at some point recently, next big video that blows up, I may get a lot more subscribers. Anyways, I was wrapping up. If you want to support me further, you can click on my name, Rydo. On the right is a blue button that says support this channel. Click it, make a donation. And if you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.